Alright, good morning class. This is Miss Lovely Infermo and today we are going to have a review in principles of teaching. At the end of this review, we are going to achieve the following learning outcomes. First, identify the elements of teaching. Second, apply the principles of learning. Third, explain the principles in management of instruction. Fourth, identify the different teaching approaches, strategies, methods, and techniques. Fifth, employ appropriate classroom management techniques. Then we have employ effective art of questioning. And then the last one, identify the elements of a lesson or learning or an instructional plan. So these are our objectives, and in order to achieve this one, we need to follow our hashtag PPE rules. So PPE, hindi lang sa COVID class ginagamit ang PPE. We also need the PPE in our review. So ano ba yung PPE? Baka sabihin yung kailangan yung magsuot ng PPE. No, ito yung gagawin natin. Una, hashtag P, prepare. We need to prepare all the necessary materials for this review. So, prepare your first scrap paper or notebook, then your pen. So, just like in life, ganun naman talaga class. Hindi lang sa review natin, ganun talaga. The first that you're going to do is to be prepared. Kasi, dapat lagi tayong handa. Ika nga ni Lolo Benjamin Franklin, di ba? Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. That is why our first rule is to be prepared, to be ready. Okay, second, once you are prepared, you need to perform. You need to participate. Makibaka, makilaban, o ano. So in this review class, we have 43 items that will help us to recall the different concepts in principles of teaching. So each question will be shown in the slides. I will read the question twice, and then you'll be given 10 seconds to decide your answer. So these are all multiple choice, and in answering a multiple choice test, of course, you must read the question, analyze, eliminate, and then decide. So ang mapapayo ko lang class is just do your best. It might be difficult, but it is possible. Okay, so that's the first and the second rule. Prepare, perform, and then the last one, evaluate. So after the allotted time, the answer will be shown. And you will be the one na mag-check ng sagot nyo. So just make sure that you will check it with honesty. So kami, maaari mong maloko, but class, hindi mo maloloko ang sarili mo. Hindi mo siya mapapaniwala ng kasinungalingan or ng alam mong mali naman talaga. So, aside from checking your paper, you also need to reflect or to remember the different concepts that will be discussed after every question. So, just like in life class, nagkakamali naman talaga tayo, and that's very normal because we are not perfect. Being correct is not a requirement. Sometimes, sapat na that we learn from our mistakes, di ba? Ayos lang madapa, ika nga. Ang mahalaga, bumabangon ka. So, that is the third rule, evaluate. And this is our PPE rule for this review. Okay, so simulan na natin with the first objective. Identify the elements of teaching and learning. Okay, so papaalala ko lang ha. These are yung questions that will be shown are all in multiple choice. So just a piece of advice. First, read the question. Ikalawa, eliminate one option. Ikatlo, analyze the different options na natira. And then, last one, decide. So, that's our hashtag read in answering the multiple choice test. So, simulan na natin. Let's start with the first question. Which of the following is considered as the center of the teaching and learning process? A. Teacher. B. Learner. C. Learning environment. Letter D. Curriculum. Again, which of the following is considered as the center of the teaching and learning process? A. Teacher. B. Learner. C. Learning environment. Or letter D. Curriculum. Okay, class, the answer is letter B, the learner. Alright. So, eto. According to Corpus and Salandanan in the year 2015, sa book nilang Principles of Teaching, there are 3 elements of the teaching and learning process or the educative process. So, these elements are the learner, the teacher, and then the learning environment. So, the learner, class, it is considered as the center of the teaching and learning process. From the very start, we know that the school is concerned with the development of the entire person, and that person is the learner. The learner has to be the center of the curriculum because everything in the curriculum, from the lesson plan, simula objective hanggang assessment, subject to be taken, materials, and even the arrangement of the learning environment, lahat yon nakabase kay learner, nakabase sa pangangailangan ni learner. That is why, class, learner is considered as the center of the teaching and learning process. Then we have here the second, the teacher. So the teacher is considered as the prime mover of the educative process because he or she directs and facilitates the whole process. And the third one is the learning environment. So learning environment, it could be physical or psychological, and this is where the interaction and transfer of learning between the teacher and learner occurs. So we have here again the 3 elements of the educative process: the learner, the teacher, and the learning environment. Alright, second question. It refers to the learner's innate talent or gift. A. Ability. B. Interest. C. Aptitude. Letter D. Family and cultural background. Okay, it refers to the learner's innate talent or gift. A. Ability. B. Interest. C. Aptitude. Letter D. Family and cultural background. So, we have here 10 seconds. The answer is yes, that is aptitude. Sometimes nalilito tayo kasi we're talking here about talent or gift. Nalilito tayo between ability and aptitude. Si letter B and letter C, automatic eliminated sila. It should not be interest. It should not be family and cultural background. By the way, the 4 are all contributors of diversity. So, hindi pwede na interest and family and cultural background. We only have 2 options. So, it's either A, ability, or letter C, aptitude. Kasi, more on talent tayo. More on talent yung pinag-uusapan natin. So, why not, class? Why not? Bakit kaya hindi ability yung naging sagot? It's because ability, this can be learned from the learning environment. Hindi siya innate. Our aptitude is innate. So, halimbawa ng aptitude is ito na flexibility, atong lawas. Oh, sugad talaga. Flexibility of our body, and then yung ability is our ability to dance. So, dancing can be learned in the environment, pero yung talagang flexibility ng body mo, innate na yun sa'yo. Kasi there are people who knows how to dance. They have the ability to dance, but really, yung body is not that flexible. So that's why the answer for this is letter C. So in addition, we have here the first, the faculties of the learner. Additional lang siya. So the learner is composed of two faculties, the cognitive and then the appetitive faculties. So cognitive faculties, it pertains to this more on thinking. So we have the five senses, the instinct, imagination, memory, and intellect. On the other hand, the appetitive faculties, it pertains naman to feelings, emotions, and will. Sa madaling salita, class, our learners, we as learners, hindi lang ito yung meron tayo, but we also have the appetitive faculties. That's why sometimes, kahit alam na natin tong topic na to, pero nandito na, we are not that motivated, then it would be impossible for us to learn it, or it would be impossible for us to master it, diba? Kasi we need to consider both cognitive and appetitive faculty. So ito, just a piece of advice, because we are you are future educators, magiging teacher din tayo. That's a piece of advice. We can have different reinforcement. It could be yes, it could be in a form of reward, or it could be gihapon the one that will develop the intrinsic motivation of the learners. Dapat meron tayo nun. Dapat we need to develop the appetitive faculties gihapon hit aton learners, not just the cognitive faculties. So that's the first element, the learner. So third question, which of the following statements is correct? Which of the following statements is correct? So asan dito? A, interpersonal intelligence is when you know your weakness and strengths. B, Rihanna has an intrapersonal intelligence because she likes to be with different types of people. C, Myra has musical intelligence because she has wide and varied musical intelligence. Ano daw? Varied knowledge about music. Musical intelligence, including both classical and contemporary. Letter D, none of this. Again, which of the following statements is correct? A, interpersonal intelligence is when you know your weaknesses and strengths. B, Rihanna has an intrapersonal intelligence because she likes to be with different types of people. Letter C, Myra has musical intelligence because she has wide and varied musical intelligence, including both classical and contemporary. And letter D, none of this. So, isip-isip tayo. What do you think is the answer? Okay, that is letter C. So, letter A and letter B, they are not correct because nagkapalit sila. Interpersonal is more on dealing with other people. Mali yung letter A kasi it is more on weaknesses, your own weaknesses and strength, which is not interpersonal, that is intrapersonal. Yung letter B naman, it is not intrapersonal, it should be interpersonal because we are dealing with different types of people. Okay, so just a review. I-review nyo rin to. We have the multiple intelligence of Dr. Howard Gardner. So we have the body smart or the bodily kinesthetics. Then we more on physical activities. Okay. Then we have the interpersonal or the people smart, socialization, existential or the life smart, asking or just dealing about existence. We have the fourth, verbal language or the word smart, good in terms of grammar, speaking, verbal and non-verbal communication. Then we have the logical mathematical or the logic smart, or also known as the number smart. Then we have the nature smart or the naturalistic, dealing with plants, animals, and others in the nature. Then we also have the intrapersonal or the self-smart, dealing with your strengths and weaknesses. And then visual spatial, picture smart, and the last one, musical or the music smart. So I know na hindi na bago sa inyo si Howard Gardner and the multiple intelligence theory, kasi nandito na to sa principles, child and adolescent, facilitating and event teaching profession. So nadidiscuss siya, sort of review na lang on how or what are the examples of these intelligences. So next question. Which of the following does not belong to the group? A. Passion, B. Let passer, C. Enthusiasm, D. Patience. Again, which of the following does not belong to the group? A. Passion, B. Let passer, letter C. Enthusiasm, or letter D. Patience. Okay, so the answer, class, is letter B. Let passer. Bakit kaya? Because we have, the teacher has two main attributes. So dalawa, we have the professional and then the personal attributes. So professional attributes, this is this includes our license. Being a let passer under the Republic Act 7836 is under the professional attributes. So that's why, kung babalikan natin itong tanong na to, you have A. Passion, B. Let passer, C. Enthusiasm, D. Patience. Ang hindi na belong ay letter B. Let passer, because this is under professional attributes, while the others, passion, humor, values and attitude, patience, enthusiasm, and commitment, this is under personal attributes. Alright, number 5. In terms of psychological climate, which of the following does not belong to the group? Again, in terms of psychological climate, which of the following does not belong to the group? A. Teacher Anne. A. Teacher Anne implements rules and regulation. B. Teacher Rino believes that we enjoy learning in a neat, tidy, orderly, spacious, well-lighted, well-ventilated, and quiet classroom. Letter C. Teacher Aya uses diverse teaching strategies to accommodate, show respect for student diversity. Or letter D. Teacher Ami considers students' interest and emotion. Again, in terms of psychological climate, which of the following does not belong to the group? A. Teacher Anne implements rules and regulation. B. Teacher Rino believes that we enjoy learning in neat, tidy, orderly, spacious, well-lighted, well-ventilated, and quiet classroom. Letter C. Teacher Aya uses diverse teaching strategies to accommodate, show respect for students' diversity. Letter D. Teacher Ami considers students' interest and emotion. So, saan kaya rito? Okay, the answer is letter B. Bakit letter B, class? Because the learning environment, may dalawang type siya. We have the physical environment and psychological climate or psychological environment. So sometimes if nag-uusap tayo about learning environment, yung naiisip agad natin, oh, okay, learning environment, it only pertains to the different sitting arrangement. So yun lang yung learning environment. But to be honest, we have here and based on the different sources, we have two types of learning environment. We have the physical learning environment. So it pertains to the seating arrangement, to the classroom, if that is spacious, well lighted, well ventilated. So yun yung physical environment. On the other hand, yung psychological environment naman, more on safety, relationship, and then the teaching and learning process. So safety, it includes the rules and regulation that has been implemented in order to avoid bullying and other problems inside the classroom. Then we have relationship, the communication between the teacher and the learner, and then the teaching and learning process itself. So that is about the third element, the learning environment. So always remember that one class. We have the physical and the psychological environment. Okay, let's move to the second objective. So, apply the principles of learning. Sa tingin ko naman, familiar pa tayo with the principles of learning. This is based on Pine and Orn. So, we have here the sixth question and first question for this objective. Sagutan natin. It is widely believed that teachers facilitate learning. Which of the following situations violates these principles? A. Teacher Robin is very much familiar with the latest teaching innovation, so he attends seminars on educational technology. Letter B. Mr. Yong Hoi Chon ridicules his students whenever they commit infractions in the classroom. Letter C. The teachers of St. Marie Eugenie Academy perform not only classroom rules but also involve themselves in community development. Or letter D. Mrs. Susanna Jack uses proactive discipline methods in the classroom and show her students that she loves them. Again, let me repeat the question. It is widely believed that teachers facilitate learning. Which of the following situations violate these principles? Letter A. Teacher Ruben is very familiar with the latest teaching innovation, so he attends seminars on educational technology. Letter B. Mr. Harvey Yong Hoi Chon ridicules his students whenever they commit infractions in the classroom. Letter C. The teachers of St. Marie Eugenie Academy perform not only classroom rules but also involve themselves in community development. Or letter D. Mrs. Susanna Jerky uses proactive discipline in the classroom and show her students that she loves them. So, asan dito na yung violate sa principles of learning? So, isa-isahin natin. Class. Si Teacher Ruben, familiar siya with the latest teaching innovation. Kaya nag-attend siya. Does it violate facilitating learning? Yes or no? Of course, it's not. Kasi as teachers, we need to develop ourselves professionally and personally. That's why okay lang yung letter A. Hindi yun violation. Letter D. Punta naman tayo sa letter D. Mrs. Susanna Jork uses proactive discipline method in the classroom and shows her students that she loves them. Okay, proactive. Ibig sabihin, nagsiset ng rules and hindi reactive yung approach niya. That's why okay lang din yung letter D kasi it's very important for us teachers to be proactive and to show our care for our learners. So walang problema doon. It will help pa nga para ma-facilitate natin yung learning. So letter A, check. Letter D, check. So meron na lang tayong letter B and letter C. So ano kaya dito? Sige, simulan natin sa C. Let's continue with letter C. Sorry. The teacher of St. Marie Eugenie Academy performed not only classroom roles, but also involved themselves in community development. So, of course, it is fine and it is very important for us teachers kasi it is in the code of ethics that we have that we are also community we need to deal or we need to participate in the community gihapon. So it is okay with letter C kasi hindi lang naman in the classroom or in the four walls in the sa classroom yung role natin, but also in the community. So check yung A, C, and D. The correct answer, or the one that is not the one that is considered as a violation ng principle na to is letter B. Letter B. Because Mr. Harvey Yong Choi Chon ridicules. So, pinagtatawanan niya, pinapahiya niya whenever a student commit infractions or a mistake in the classroom. So, yung tendency kasi is yung student na yon is mahihiya na siyang mag-raise ng sagot niya. So, I have read this in Facebook. There is a student na talagang hilig niyang mag-recite, and then sometimes talagang active siya sa classes, and yung super active na always raise siya ng hand niya even though not sure siya with not sure but nag-raise siya ng hand niya to share his or her opinion. Then one time nagkaroon sila ng teacher kung saan sinabihan siya agad na mali yung sagot niya, and then it's better not to answer na lang kung hindi naman nasasagutan ng tama. So yung nangyari is hindi na nagre-recite or nagkakaroon na yung bata ng hesitation to answer. So that's why it is not correct or it is not just right to ridicule students whenever they commit infraction. So, okay lang naman na mag-joke, but make sure that that is not below the belt or that will not affect the learner's motivation. So, that's for number 6. Okay, number 7. In a social science class, Teacher Elgin required the students to write the first and last stanzas of Lupang Hinirang. A student was able to recall each word. I had to sing it silently. What is the implication of this strategy? A. More active participation can make recall easier. B. Teaching strategies can facilitate learning by appealing to their unique learning styles. Letter C. Teaching strategies can make students experience concrete. Letter D. An integrated teaching approach is more effective in strengthening moral connection. Alright, so again, in a social science class, Teacher Elgin required the students to write their first and last stanzas of Lupang Hinirang. A student was able to recall each word. I had to sing it silently. What is the implication of this strategy? A. More active participation can make the recall easier. B. Teaching strategies can facilitate learning by appealing to their unique styles. Letter C. Teaching strategies can make students experience concrete. Or letter D, an integrated teaching approach is more effective in strengthening moral connection. Itong question na to, maraming nalilito dito. So, isa-isayin natin, let us, analyze or examine the question. In teaching social science class, si Teacher Elgin, nag-require siya sa students na i-write yung first and second stanza of Lupang Hinirang. So, may isang student, and then that student said, I had to sing it silently. So, asan kaya dito? Or sige, simulan muna natin. Mag-remove tayo or mag-eliminate. Kung magtatanggal tayo, class. Sandali. Natatabunan camera. Okay, perfect. Diyan ka na. Alright. Kung magtatanggal tayo, class, ang tatanggalin natin ay walang iba kundi si letter C. Why letter C should be eliminated? Teaching strategies can make students experience concrete. So, here we are talking here about concrete experience. And based naman dito sa question natin, it has nothing to do with concrete experience. Wala dyan more on sharing of experiences na learner. In fact, the one that they are going to do is to write the first and last stanza of Lupang Hinirang. So, meron na lang tayong letter A, B, and C. So, letter A, B, and D. So, letter D, simulan natin sa baba. Letter D, we have here, an integrated teaching approach is more effective in strengthening moral connection. Integrated. So, integrated, this is more an integration of values. So, here, yung subject ni Teacher Elgin is social science. And then, integrated siya. Mayroon bang nakalagay na integration dyan about moral connection? And then, mayroon bang required ba yung student na kantahin nila as an integration of music? Kung hindi, then tanggal si letter D. So, we only have A, B, and B. So, letter A, more active participation can make recall easier, and letter B, teaching strategies can facilitate learning by appealing to their unique learning styles. So, we have here letter A. More active participation can make the recall easier. They need to participate. Okay. Inilagay ba dyan that all students need to sing this one? They are required to participate to sing, to recall. Diba? Hindi. So, yung tamang sagot and the best answer for this question is letter B. Teaching strategies can facilitate learning by appealing to their unique learning styles. Because, eto, unique siya sa isang student. Yung iba kasing student, okay, ilalagay ko, isusulat ko yung first and then last stanza of Lupang Hinirang. So, in writing, just simply write it. Or yung iba naman, loud yung pagkakakanta. So, dun nila naaalala. But this one, yung clue natin dito, a student was able to recall each word gamit yung, ang sabi niya, I had to sing it silently. So, the answer, class, is walang duda. That is letter B. So, we have here, or we need to remember the following principles of learning. Experience which occurs. Learning is an experience. The first one. Learning is an experience which occurs inside the learner and is activated by the learner. The process of learning is primarily controlled by the learner and not by the teacher. So, kahit anong gawing kahit tumambling o mag-split pa dyan si teacher, no matter what teaching strategy, the materials, yung gamitin ni teacher, if the learner is not that motivated to learn, then hindi mag-o-occur yung learning process. Because that is activated by the learner. Ikalawa, discovery of personal meaning and relevance of ideas. So, students are more readily, or they internalize and implement concepts and ideas which are relevant to their needs. That's why ating lesson, we have the application. We always connect our lesson to the personal experience or the things in the surroundings ni learner. Kasi they learn once it is relevant or it has a personal meaning to them. Third, learning is experiential. So for effective learning, giving of information is not enough. Stating it is not enough. So for example, you are teaching about how to use Microsoft PowerPoint. So stating the different features of PowerPoint is not enough. We need to let them use Microsoft PowerPoint. We need to let them create a PowerPoint presentation by themselves. That's why experiential, it should be hands-on, hearts-on, and minds-on. Number 4, cooperative and collaborative. The fourth principle states that two heads are better than one. That's why we as future educators, pag tayo maging teachers na rin, and we really need to give cooperative and collaborative activities. So, hindi puro individual activities because yung mangyayari is mahihirapan yung learner natin to socialize. Then we have here, next is learning is an evolutionary process, meaning it is changing. So, there is learning when there is change, but this change is not an abrupt change. So, it requires time and patience. So, pag mag-learn tayo, it needs time. Next, we have learning is a painful process. Really. That's why we teachers must give challenging tasks to our students. And wag naman sana kayong masyadong magreklamo kung challenging. Eto na lang, tandaan nyo class. Walang nag-grow kapag nasa comfort zone. You will grow once you are outside your comfort zone. That's why we really need to consider this one. Learning is a painful process. Then we have here the richest resource is the learner himself. So there are things na marami pang i-share ni learner and marami tayong matututunan kay learner because learner can be the richest resource of learning. Then another principle, emotional as well as intellectual. Learning, sabi nga natin, the learner has both cognitive and appetitive faculty. That's why we need to appeal not only with cognitive but as well as the emotions of our learners. And then the last one, process of problem solving and learning are highly unique and individual. Sa madaling salita class, effective learning pays to allow students learn in accordance to their unique learning styles and multiple intelligence. So these are the principles of principles of learning that we have discussed or that you have encountered in principles of teaching. So it's not that important na ma-learn lang niyo ang concept, but also it is important for us to apply this concept. And even I am still on the process of applying these principles. Okay, so before we proceed, break muna tayo and then we'll continue later on. So I'll just pause the video. Alright, so let us continue with our review. So, the third objective is explain the principles in management. Pero bago tayo mag-proceed, ilan na yung score nyo out of 7 questions? Sino yung naka-perfect 7 na dyan? Okay? Kung naka-perfect 7 ka, well, that is nice. If hindi naman, okay lang yan. Ika nga, sabi nga natin, hashtag bangon and hashtag fighting lang in life. Okay, so let us have the number 8 question. So very familiar tayo with the choices sa number 8. Sandali lang class ha. Okay. After giving an input on a good paragraph, Teacher W asks her students to rate a given paragraph along the elements of a good paragraph. The student's task in this level The student task is in the level of A. Application, B. Analysis, C. Evaluation, or letter D. Synthesis. Again, after giving an input on a good paragraph, Teacher W asks her students to rate a given paragraph along with the elements of a good paragraph. The student's task is in the level of blank. A. Application, B. Analysis, C. Evaluation, or letter D. Synthesis. Okay, you have 10 seconds to answer. The answer is letter C. So, bakit kaya letter C? So, eto class. Eto yung clue word natin dito. To rate a given paragraph. So, we are now talking about rating, judging, then that is evaluation. Sige, balikan natin to para maalala natin. So we have the cognitive domain of Benjamin Bloom that has been revised by Anderson. So kay Benjamin Bloom, kung mapapansin nyo, we have knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So, knowledge and remembering, kasi yung nabago naman kasi, di ba? Yung nabago dun sa taxonomy ni Anderson and ni Bloom is the different, yung from noun to verb, and then another change is the 5th and the 6th level. Kung saan, in Anderson, the higher one is creating and not the highest is creating and not evaluating. Because Anderson believes that learners must not only learn how to judge or how to rate, but also how to create it by themselves. So, we have here, again, the cognitive domain of Benjamin Bloom and Anderson. So, let's start with knowledge or remembering. So, knowledge or remembering, it pertains to recalling and memorization. So, the object is to test the ability of the students to recall facts. So, for example, in teaching science, elementary science, if the objective is define photosynthesis. Tapos sinabi yung hinihingi is the common definition that photosynthesis is the food making process of plants, then that is knowledge or remembering. Kasi we are just on recalling. Next, comprehension or understanding. This is more on to translate from one form to another. In other words, we need to restate the material as the learner. Our task is to restate the material in our own words. So, for example, pinabasa sa atin, explain the meaning of photosynthesis. So, explain the meaning of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the food-making process of plants. Pina-explain sa'yo. That is comprehension or understanding. Third level is application or applying. This is to apply or use information in another way. So, presenting it, it should be based on what we have learned. So, parang hirap naman yata kung photosynthesis. Okay, sige. Na-challenge ako dun sa photosynthesis. Applying or application. So, we need to apply this one. Okay, alam nga naman ipahahanap ko sa inyo, di ba? For another lesson na tayo. So, for example, we have the living and the non-living things. So, you learn the different characteristics of living and non-living things. Tapos, pag uwi mo sa bahay, the assignment of the teacher is to cite living and non-living things and then describe their characteristics. So, pag uwi mo sa bahay, okay, si nanay, living thing siya. Then, what are the different characteristics ni nanay? Don't be so kuan ha. This is in elementary science. So, that is in applying. Then, we have analyzing or analysis. So, dun pa rin tayo sa topic na living things. Sana pala, living things na lang kanina yung topic natin. So, we have analysis or analyzing. This is more on differentiating or contrasting. So, for example, you need to differentiate living and non-living things. That is analysis or analyzing. Then we have synthesis or creating. So to put information together in a unique way. So that is synthesis or creating, and then the last for Bloom and the fifth for Anderson, that is evaluating or evaluation. This is more on assessing or giving quantitative or qualitative judgment using standards of appraisal. So, judging, kasi we need to rate here, the answer is letter C. So, that's evaluation. So, class, itong cognitive domain, among the other domains naman kasi, the order of the level lang yung tinatanong. For example, the Cratwell, yung kay Cratwell, which is tungkol siya sa affective domain, you'll just be asked kung sometimes, in some reviewers, ito yung na-found out ko, hindi siya more on application. Isang question lang yung madalas lumabas dun kay Cratwell, that is, what is the lowest level in the Cratwell? It should be receiving. Kung walang receiving doon, it should be responding. Etong kay Bloom, the cognitive domain, talagang madalas siyang lumabas. It's because this is not just used in principles, but this is also used in assessment. So, always remember this one, and if you have time, read and read pa. Balikan nyo to kasi this is very important. Okay, so let's move to number 9. Here are some comments from school head Carmen regarding her observation on teachers' practice in lesson planning. The words identify, tell, and enumerate are overused. Many times, they make use of non-behavioral terms. Often, their lesson objectives do not include value formation and inculcation. What can be inferred to the school head's comments? A. Objectives are in low level. B. Very often, lesson objectives are in cognitive domain. Letter C, quite often, lesson objectives describe teachers' behavior. Or letter D, often objectives are in psychomotor domain. So, ano ba yan? So, let's have this one. Alright. So, often lesson objectives are in low level. So, ang tanong ko, class, is it in low level? Identify? Tell and enumerate? Yes, it could be in a low level. But, sometimes the term identify, hindi naman siya in low level. Sabi ko nga, identify can also be used in applying and even in analyzing. Identify the difference between living and non-living things. So, hindi siya always in low level. That's why letter A, hindi siya yung tamang sagot. Letter B, very often, lesson objectives are in cognitive domain. Yes, cognitive naman siya. Identify, tell, and enumerate. So, sige, let us consider letter B. Hanapin pa natin, baka may mas better pang sagot. Quite often, lesson objectives describes teachers' behavior. Yes, sometimes it describes teachers' behavior, but always remember that in creating the objective, it should not be the teacher's behavior that should be considered, but it should be the learner's behavior. So, wala namang relationship yung letter C dun sa question natin. Kasi wala namang nakastate doon na si teacher yung gumagawa or si teacher yung nandun para sa objective, di ba? And letter D, often lesson objective are in psychomotor domain. Parang hindi naman psychomotor yan. Identify, tell, and enumerate. That's why the answer for this, ano yung naging sinasabi ni school head, that is letter A, often lesson objectives. Letter B, very often lesson objectives are in cognitive domain. So sometimes it is also good for us to use cognitive domain. It is also good for us to integrate objectives under affective domain. So that is why we have here letter B. Okay, so we have here some objective-related principles. So, paano ba ito paliitin? Some objective-related principles. We have the first one, begin with the end of mind. So, let us begin our lesson or our activities with a clearly defined objective. Kasi our objective serves as the guiding star. So, just like in life class, we always need to have our objective. And this objective should be followed all throughout the process or all throughout our actions. So, if your objective is to finish your studies, then dapat lahat ng action mo should help to finish your studies. Next, share lesson objectives with the students. So, make your students own the lesson objective. It could be stating the objective in the first place, or it could be discovering the objective as we go along with the discussion. Third, lesson objective must be in 2 or 3 domains. So, it should be with cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Then we have work on significant and relevant lesson objectives. So, always have the objective that is or that will help to develop the student, achieve their needs, and of course, have their that is connected to their life experiences. Then we have here lesson objectives must be aligned with the aim of education as embodied in the Philippine Constitution and other laws, vision, mission statements of the educational institution of which you are part in. So in lesson objective natin, it should be taken or it should be aligned with our vision, mission, as well as the different laws. Then we have here aim at the development of critical and creative thinking. So our lesson objective should develop higher order thinking skills or the HOTS and our creativity. And then the last one, our objective must be SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, relevant, and time-bounded. So these are the things that we need to consider in crafting or in creating our objectives. So, balikan nyo yun, class. Importanteng balikan nyo yung different domains, cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains, as well as embody the different objective-related principles of teaching. Okay. Drink muna ka ng water. Alright, next question, number 10. When choosing teaching devices, which of the following is primarily considered by the teacher? Or again, when choosing teaching devices, which is the primary consideration that teachers must think about? A. Appropriateness. B. Attractiveness. C. Cost. D. Novelty. Again, when choosing teaching strategies, which of the following is the primary consideration of teachers in crafting the teaching devices? A. Appropriateness, B. Attractiveness, C. Cost, or letter D. Novelty. So, the answer, class, is letter A, appropriateness. So, baka naisip nyo, class, na attractiveness, always remember that the content itself or the aim itself must always comes first before the design. Okay, so, to learn or to just have the review, we have here the selection and use of instructional materials. So, these are the different guiding principles that we have to consider in selecting our IMs. So first, all the instructional materials are aid to instruction. They do not replace the teacher. So, for example, if we want our learners to watch the video, then let us first give him rules in watching the video, guide questions in watching the video, and assess after watching the video. So, materials should not replace the teacher. It should be just an aid. Second, choose the instructional material that best suits your instructional objective. So, sabi ko nga, it should be appropriate with our instructional objective. Hindi pwede, class, na we consider na, ito gagamitin kong IMs kasi ito, ang ganda niyang tignan. Hindi ganon. It should be align with our instructional objective. Then the last one, if possible, use variety of tools, because we all know that we have different types of learners. They have different learning styles, multiple intelligences. So we can use PowerPoint, we can use videos, we can use record, or even printed materials. So, iba-ibang klaseng tools, iba-ibang klaseng instructional materials for iba-ibang klaseng learners. So, that's for number 10. Alright, number 11. Forma or form over substance is evident in students in one of these instances. Again, forma over substance is evident in students in one of these instances. So, asang instance dito, visible yung sinasabi nating forma over substance. Okay. A. Harvey submitted a comprehensive written report to Mrs. Tupaco even if it was soiled with tomato ketchup. B. Kisha submitted her report to Mrs. Yalong even if it reeked cigarette when she smoked before class. Letter C. Joel submitted his written report to Mr. Chu a week in advance. Letter D. Olivia submitted her poorly written report, which was printed on perfumed stationery, to her English for the research of teacher Dr. Verches. So again, forma over substance. You have 10 seconds. Alright? So, move tayo dito. Okay. Alright, sige. Okay. So, we have here, ba't ayaw? Okay. Kapag sinabi natin, class, na forma over substance, we are pertaining to the design. The design is more important than the content. So, asan sa choices or asan sa option yung student na kinukonsider niya yung design kesa sa content? So, let's start with letter A. Letter A, Harvey submitted his comprehensive report kahit natapunan na yon ng tomato ketchup. Well, that is not forma over substance kasi comprehensive yung written report and hindi niya consider yung physical appearance ng output na ipapasa niya. So, that is why letter A is not an evidence of forma over substance. Okay? Letter B naman tayo. Kisha submitted her written report kahit na nabutas or na lalagyan na siya ng sigarilyo. So, hindi rin siya forma over substance kasi nagbasa pa rin siya ng written report and without considering the attractiveness of it. Then letter C, Joel submitted his written report a week in advance. So wala naman siyang connect with forma over substance kasi it does not talk about the science, it does not talk about the content. So the answer, class, is walang iba kundi si letter D. Olivia submitted her poorly written report which was printed on perfumed stationery on her English for Research teacher, Dr. Verches. Kasi class, here in this letter D, poorly written report, ibig sabihin, hindi niya kinonsider yung content or mas pinagtuunan niya yung design, di ba? Inilagay niya pa sa printed perfumed stationery. Hindi niya na pinagtuunan yung content nung report na yan. So that's why the answer is letter D. Alright, let's move to letter... Ay, paano lumaki? Okay, just a minute. I'll just pause this one. Diba class? Nagulat din kayo? Well, nagulat din ako. Sandali, tignan ko lang if okay na. Nagulat din ako kung bakit lumaki yung face ko. Well, anyway, just to share to you before we proceed to this question, nalagay na talaga yung sagot. Yung gamit ko is just my phone in recording and I'm just using the app. So, later on, I will share this to you kasi baka mapakinabangan nyo. So, up lang siya sa phone and phone lang yung gamit mo in recording. So, it's very nice. So, eto, na-reveal na yung answer. Nakita nyo na, wala na akong naitago pa. So, the answer is letter D. So, we have here, in her science class, Teacher Mabel can show the cause and effect of sex and pregnancy by using this type of organizer. A. KWL technique, B. concept map, C. Venn diagram, or letter D. the fishbone diagram. Again, in her science class, Teacher Mabel can show the cause and effect of sex and pregnancy by using this type of organizer. So, anong organizer to? We have A. KWL technique, B. concept map, C. Venn diagram, or letter D. fishbone diagram. And the answer for this class is nandyan na kasi hindi ko na natago yung sagot. That is the fishbone diagram. So, anong itsura ng mga to? So, the first one, itong nakikita nyo sa pinakataas and pinaka-left side. Yeah, pag nakarap kayo, that's the left side. That is the KWL. So, by the way, class, graphic organizer, itong mga andito, the choices or the option are all graphic organizer. So, these are designed to facilitate understanding of key concepts by allowing students to visually identify key points and ideas. So, pinaka-familiar sa atin na graphic organizer are the web and the concept map. So, here are some. Itong apat na to, we have the KWL, we have the concept map, Venn diagram, and the fishbone. So, as you can see, KWL, it includes, may table siya. So, what I know, what I want to know, and what I learned. So, I guess you're familiar with this. Kasi ito, natatandaan ko to nung elementary ako, we have this KWL, ginagamit to, and even in college, sometimes ginagamit natin siya. At the beginning of the lesson, binibigay siya to the student and pinapalagyan yung first and then second column. Then after the discussion, they need to fill out yung nasa third column, what I learned. So, yung KWL kasi is about the learning of the student. So, hindi siya tungkol sa cause and effect. Yung tinatanong kasi sa number 12 is more on cause and effect. Number 2 naman, we have the concept map. Concept map illustrate the relationship. The relationship of the representation or the relationship of the concepts and ideas that has been presented. So, we have here trees, it provide oxygen, provide shade, are used in paper making. So, hindi rin siya tungkol sa cause and effect. More on relationship of concepts siya. So, that's why the answer is not concept map. Then, we have the so-called Venn diagram. So, Venn diagram, very familiar siya. So, it could be triple Venn diagram, or ito yung common. We have here dalawang overlapping circles. So, we have the difference dun sa outside, dun sa hindi nag-overlap na part. We need to write the difference between the two concepts, and dun sa overlapping part, ilalagay natin yung similarities. So, for example, we need to differentiate living and non-living things. Ilalagay natin sa magkabila kung ano yung characteristics. Sa kabila, characteristic ng living, and sa kabila, characteristics ng non-living. Then, sa same naman, they are both components of the ecosystem. So, that's a Venn diagram. So, yung nagbibigay sa atin ng cause and effect, that is the fishbone diagram. So, hindi naman talaga class, literal na may mukha siya ng fish dyan. So, it could be just a triangle lang. Yung importante natin rito is makuha natin, asan na yung pen? Makuha natin yung factor or yung reasons na existence ng main topic. So, for example, our main topic here is pollution. So, ano yung factor 1 na nagiging cause ng pollution? So, for example, throwing improper garbage disposal. So, yun yung ilalagay natin dito. Then, the details. Then, factor 3, another reason. So, that's why we have here, class, the cause and effect. It is in the fishbone diagram. Okay, so to learn more about graphic organizer, I would like to recommend this links to you. Just click that one, or you may visit that one, https visme.co blog graphic organizer and creately.com blog diagrams. Yung creately.com, it is very useful for us teachers kasi pwedeng i-edit natin yung template doon. Pwedeng i-edit natin yung iba't ibang graphic organizers na nandun. So, that's for number 12. Okay, let's move to number 13. Miss Jane Chong, ba't ba ito yung mga pangalang nilagay natin? Miss Jane Chong Yokyen, a biology teacher, wants to show her students how blood circulates in the body. Which of the following devices is suitable for Miss Chong lessons? Again, Miss Jane Chong Yokyen, a biology teacher, wants to show her students how blood circulates in the body. Which of the following devices is suitable for Miss Chong lesson? So, we have letter A, diorama, letter B, realia, letter C, specimen, or letter D, mock-up. So, ano ang gagamitin ni Miss Chong? Diorama, realia, specimen, or mock-up? The answer, class, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is letter D. That is a mock-up. Bakit nga ba mock-up? So, tignan natin kung ano tong mga to. So, we have the first part, ito. This one, class, this is a diorama. So, a diorama is a model representing a scene with three-dimensional figure, either a miniature or a large-scale museum exhibit. So, this is also known as, Anton? This is also known as a miniature of a place. So, madalas natin itong gawin, and I guess, ano ba? Biosci, very common yung paggamit ng diorama in ecology. Nagawa namin kasi gahapon ni during our ecology, pinagawa kami ng diorama. So, to, Anton and forest at naman, nangangalimot na ako. Perfect. So, something to do with forest. Basta yun na yun. So, that's a diorama. Then, we have here realia. Yung nandyan is picture. So, well, anyway, realia are real objects. So, concrete object siya. This is a realia. So, hindi naman pwedeng realia yung gamitin natin din, no? Then we have specimen. So it is a part or individual of an individual animal, plant, piece of mineral that is used to examine species. So it could be an individual or it could just be a part of an animal that is conserved. That is preserved. So that is specimen. Then the last one is a mock-up. So bakit mock-up yung sagot kanina? Because mock-up is an arrangement of a real device or associated device displayed in such a way that the representation of the reality is created. And another, mock-up is a special type of model because we have different types of model. We have the replica and then the mock-up. You have the cross-sectional. Yung mock-up natin, it is used to heightened and magnified in order to focus on the parts. So, kung focus natin is the parts, we are using now the mock-up. So, kung mapapansin nyo dito, class, yung gustong gawin ni Teacher Chong Yok Yen is to show how blood circulates in the body. Ala nga namang magpadiorama ka niyan. Ala nga rin namang realia yung gamitin mo. So, sige ka di, student. Puspusan ta ikaw, di ba? So, it's not also a specimen. It should be a mock-up. Well, anyway, we have more three-dimensional instructional plan. Gaya nga na sinabi ko yung cross-sectional and we also have the analog. So, in order to learn this one, please visit the website, the link that we have here. Ito, www.slideshare.net Juvihayo 3-dimensional 3D instructional media. Okay, so let's move to number 14. In planning for instruction, can a teacher begin with assessment? Yes or no? Yes or no lang to. Pero tricky tong tanong na to. A, no. It may discourage and scare the learners. B, yes. Determine entry knowledge or skill. Letter C, yes. To make the class pay attention. Letter D, no. Assessment is only at the end of learning. Again, in planning for instruction, can a teacher begin with assessment? A, no. It may discourage and scare the learners. B, yes. Determine entry knowledge or skill. Letter C, yes. To make the class pay attention. And letter D, no. Assessment is only at the end of lesson. What do you think is the answer, class? Alright, that is letter B. Hindi siya no. Kasi we have, if you're talking assessment, sugad talaga. If you're talking sa assessment, we have the diagnostic, diba? So, we can conduct a diagnostic exam or a pre-test, which is, assessment kasi is measuring the present knowledge of the child. So, not measuring but gathering data about the present knowledge of the child. So kung nag-gather tayo ng data, it could be at the beginning and that is in a form of diagnostic or pretest. So we can determine the entry knowledge or skills. So pwede siya. That's number 14. So we have here the different assessment of learning principle. So, based on the objective and an integral part of the TL process. So, yung assessment natin, that is very important and dapat nakabase sa ating objective. It should be aligned with our objective. So, if our objective is to differentiate living and non-living things, then hindi maaari. And our objective, we will we will enumerate living and non-living things. We need to differentiate. Kaya man aton objective. Hindi pwede na aton evaluation. We need to enumerate. Then we have attainable and measurable. Make sure that we can achieve our assessment, that it is suitable for the learners and it can be measured. So if that is an essay or a performance-based or a product-based, we need to give a rubrics and it should be aligned to the level of the learners. Third, it should be, it is not a disciplinary measure. So, hindi pwede na nagalit ka sa student mo kasi nagalit tayo sa student natin tapos nagpa-quiz tayo ng biglaan. So, again, assessment should not be a disciplinary action. Hindi rin pwede na we give this grades kasi pasaway yung student natin. Liban na lang if values, especially if you have your subject as GMRC, liban na lang kung ganun yun. But using it as a disciplinary measure should not be allowed. Then we have here report results or give feedback. Giving of feedback. Then assessment of learning should focus on should include self-assessment. Next objective. Identify the different teaching approaches, strategies, methods, and techniques. So, nandito na tayo in teaching. So, question number 14. It refers to the set of assumptions that defines beliefs and theories about the nature of the learner and the process of learning. We have A, approach, B, technique, letter C, strategy, and letter D, method. Again, it refers to a set of assumptions that define beliefs and theories about the nature of the learner and the process of learning. A, approach, B, technique, letter C, strategy, or letter D, method. The answer, class, is letter A, approach, because this is more on set of assumption that define beliefs and theories. Okay, so para maintindihan natin, try to read this one, try to analyze their differences. So we have approach, set of principles or beliefs or ideas about the nature of learning, which is translated into the classroom. Then the long-term plan that is used to carry out our approaches, that is based on our approaches, that is called strategy. Now, the step-by-step hadtong aton plan, that is the method. Then our style in achieving this particular method, that is our technique. So we have here approaches, strategy, methods, and techniques. Okay, let's have number 15. Which of the following is true about deductive teaching? So, deductive teaching is often referred as indirect instruction. B, it is also known as direct instruction. Letter C, this is done by giving example and specific details than generalization. Letter D, both A and C. So, again, which of the following is true about deductive teaching? A, deductive teaching is often referred as indirect instruction. B, it is also known as direct instruction. Letter C, it is done by giving example and specific details than generalization. And letter D, both A and C. So what do you think is the answer, class? The answer is letter B. It is also known as direct instruction. So, deductive teaching is similar to direct, while inductive is similar to indirect instruction. DDII. So, always remember that clue. So, deductive teaching, hindi siya indirect. Kasi indirect, giving of ideas, concept, then allowing the learners to discover. That is indirect. Yung deductive kasi is giving the concept or the generalization followed na yung example. Ganito. ano daw? Ganito, in teaching class, we have two. We have two prime method na madalas nating ma-encounter, the deductive and inductive. So, deductive is from general to specific, while inductive, that is specific to general. So, deductive is more on having the concept or the general statement first to be followed by examples. On the other hand, yung inductive natin, this is more on examples muna, situation muna, bago concept or bago generalization. For example, in teaching class, about adding of fractions, adding similar fractions. So, add similar fractions, yun yung objective natin. So, if we're going to use deductive method, so, una, we need to state the principle, we need to state the rule in adding similar fraction, that we need to add the numerator and then copy the denominator. Tapos, mayroon ng mga example. That is deductive. But, if that is inductive, okay, ibigay ka muna ng activity, then series of samples ng adding fractions to be followed na yung si learner na, siya na yung magdi-discover ng concept or generalization. So, that is letter B. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng deductive method. So, next, let us have number 16. The role of the teacher in indirect instruction is more of a blank. The role of a teacher is in indirect instruction is more of a blank. A. Facilitator. B. Coach. C. Knowledge dispenser. Or letter D. Information provider. So, asan rito yung role ni teacher? That is letter A, facilitator. Okay, so always remember that as teachers, our role is no longer sage on stage. It is no longer a knowledge dispenser or information provider. Our role is to guide and facilitate. Kasi in the indirect instruction, we let our learners discover. So, we need to facilitate. Okay, number 17. There are no dull textbook, no dull subjects, only dull teachers. How can teachers connect subject matter in life? A. Derived lesson from the content of the subject matter. B. Depart teaching for test purposes only. C. Appertain the lesson to real life context. Or letter D. Both B and C. Okay, so there are no dull textbook, no dull subjects, only dull teachers. How can teachers connect subject matter to life? A. Derived lesson from content of the subject matter. B. Depart learning for test purposes only. Then, we have appertain the lesson to make real life context. Letter D, both B and C. So, how can the teachers connect subject matter? That is letter D, both B and C. So, una kasi, derive the lesson from the content of the subject matter. Pwede man, our content, we can add real life or anything connected to our lesson. So, hindi lang tungkol dun sa subject matter. Then, we have letter B, depart teaching for test purpose only. Ibig sabihin, we need to teach not only for test purposes. So, that is okay. That is correct. Letter C, appertain the lesson to real life context. Ibig sabihin, our lesson should not just include the content that is just on the book but also real life. So it is fine because it will make the learners learn better. So the answer here is both B and C. So water break muna tayo, class. Talagang iba na yung feeling ng lalamunan ko. So water break muna tayo. Okay, so let's continue, class. Let us have number 18. So the question for number 18 is, coming together is the beginning, keeping together is the progress, and working together is success. This statement emphasizes collaborative learning. Which of the following responsibilities are the task of a teacher in the collaborative learning? A. Beginning with the conviction that every student can share something in the attainment of the goal. B. Structures tasks in a way that a group goal cannot be realized without the members' collaboration. Letter C. Must make clear that at the end of the activity, they have to reflect together. Letter D. All of the above. So which of the following are responsibilities or tasks of the teacher in collaborative learning? 10 seconds to think. Alright, class, that is letter D. We have all of the above. Kasi tingnan natin yung letter A. Begin with the conviction that every student can share something in the attainment of the goal. Yes, that is correct. More on sharing because this is collaborative learning. Then we have structure task in a way that group goal cannot be realized without the members' collaboration. So yes, class, this is also correct kasi in giving a group work, we need to let our learners realize that they need to collaborate to achieve one goal. Now, if there is no collaboration, a goal cannot be achieved. The last choice, we have letter C. Must make clear that at the end of the activity, they have to reflect together. So, we have here letter C. We need to let our learners reflect together. So, the answer is tama yung A, B, and C. It should be all of the above. Alright, let's move to number 19. The following reminders are considered necessary for PRBL or PJBL. We have the project-based learning to succeed or project-based learning to succeed. Except, so asan dito yung hindi kasali? So, hello? Oh, nakasir. Okay, letter A. The presentation of product or project is the end of PRBL. Letter B. Embolden the students to employ creative and interesting ways of presenting their project to sustain audience attention. Letter C. Students should be given sufficient time to work. Or letter D. Both A and B. So again, which of the following reminders are considered necessary for product-based? So, asan dito yung hindi kasali? That is letter A. Why letter A, class? Because in having the project-based, the end product is not the project alone. We need to reflect on the project. We need to reflect and evaluate the project. So, hindi sapat na makapag-present na tayo ng project natin. So, for example, if our output is an investigatory project, so it's not necessary na mag-present lang tayo ng investigatory project natin. We need to evaluate our investigatory project. So that's why A is not included because the last product is evaluation or reflection. Okay, number 20. The following are application of the strategies in identifying similarities and differences. Which is the best example of classifying strategy? So, medyo magulo yung question natin kasi we are talking here about classifying strategy. So, asan dito yung classifying strategy? That is, hindi ko na patatagalin, class, that is letter B. So, yung letter A, magulo kasi nagulo yung question natin. So, sorry for that. Yung letter A, yes, it is all about similarities and differences. Pero yung tinatanong natin dito is more on classifying. So, asan dito yung para sa classifying? That is letter D, using table to categorize the theories of learning. Alright, let's have number 21. There is no such thing as best method because the effectiveness of method is dependent on various factors. Which of the following are the factors the best which of the following are the factors the method's effectiveness? So, asan dito? All of the above kaya? Letter D kaya? Okay, so the answer, class, is yes, that is letter D. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, wala naman talagang best method. Nakadepende siya with the readiness of the teacher. Now, for example, comparing deductive and inductive. So, iisipin natin na sometimes maganda talaga yung, isipin talaga natin na, okay, yung mas better is inductive kaysa deductive. Pero yung totoo, walang better or best sa kanila. So, both sila applicable, both sila okay. So, nakadepende yon una sa teacher's readiness. If we are truly prepared on what we're going to discuss, then we have the mastery of the subject, then let's go with deductive. Kapag we want our learners to discover more, to share, to hear ideas from our learners, let us use inductive. Now, another, learner's readiness. Once our learners are not, nahirapan sila sa topic, then automatic deductive ka. Pag okay and nagpa-participate sila sa topic, mas naintindihan nila, use inductive. Then we have nature of the subject matter. So nature of the subject matter, it also dependent doon sa subject. Then the last one, time allotment for the subject. If malaki yung time allotment, okay, magpa-inductive. But if konti lang yung oras, it would be better to have deductive method. Number 22. Some of teacher Rosana's students have been continually observed to have had problems in comprehending her math lessons in which she keeps on lecturing. What is the best thing for teacher Rosana to do in order to help her students catch up with her lesson? So, asan daw rito yung dapat gawin ni teacher Rosana? Yung nangyayari si teacher Rosana, nahihirapan na yung students niya. Pero, yung ginagawa niya is always lecture pa rin. And the lecture, kasi nahihirapan yung student, it is not that effective. So, let us analyze the choices. Tama ba yung letter A? Keep on teaching even if her style does not change. Is it correct? Tama bang magturo ka pa rin kung tama bang mag-lecture ka pa rin kung alam mong hindi na natututo when it comes to lecture? So think of that. Second, give pop-up quizzes to her students. Oh, it's okay to have pop-up quizzes, but it's okay to have quizzes, but hindi natin mamimit yung assessment, yung purpose ng assessment natin because this is pop-up and mahirap siya kasi hindi pa natututunan ng students yung topic. Letter C, encourage the student participation during the meeting. Yes, it's correct. Okay naman yon. Letter D, give her students low grades. Remember, letter D is a violation sa assessment. So, the answer, the best answer for this is no other than but letter C. Okay, let's go to number 23. Mr. Daniel Arcadio, a high school home economics teacher, wanted to teach proper table etiquette to his senior students. He set up a long dinner table with complete formal dinner setup and demonstrated the proper use of cutlery and chinaware. He let his students practice eating at a formal dinner. What the students performed in Mr. Arcadio class was blank. A. Brainstorming. B. Panel discussion. C. C. Simulation. D. Role play. What do you think is the answer, class? Again, Mr. Daniel Arcadio, a high school home economics teacher, wanted to teach his students, senior students, about the etiquette, about the table etiquette. He set up a long dinner table with complete formal dinner setup and demonstrated the proper use of cutlery and chinaware. He lets his students practice eating formal dinner. What the students performed in Mr. Arcadio's class was blank. A. Brainstorming. B. Panel discussion. C. Simulation. D. Role play. Okay. Kung tatanggal tayo, class. Kung magtatanggal tayo, definitely tatanggalin natin yung brainstorming. Kasi brainstorming, 'di ba? We all know that brainstorming is letting the pupils to form a group to come up with thoughts or ideas. So, ito naman kasi pinapagawa sa kanila yung proper table etiquette. So, hindi lang sila nag-iisip. So, that is not brainstorming. Panel discussion. So, panel discussion is just like having a meeting. Yes, nasa table sila, but they are not having a meeting to come up with an idea. So, hindi rin siya panel discussion. So, may dalawang option na lang tayo, either simulation or role play. Ano ba yung difference ng simulation sa role play? Simulation is the approximate imitation of the operation or the process that represents is the imitation of the operation or the process itself. So, some example of simulation are earthquake drills, fire drills. So, in order to simulate a specific situation. Yung role play naman, this is an attitudinal change, pero structured siya. So, mas structured siya sa simulation kasi yung simulation, you are free. As long as you follow the rules, you are free to do your movements based on the situation itself. Pero yung role play, gagawin mo ang isang role or gagawin mo ang isang task kahit hindi naman ito yung ikaw talaga. Simulation as ikaw, role play as hindi ikaw. So, or it could be different roles. So, dito, they are going to eat, they are going to have a dinner, they are just going to show how to eat. And then that is simulation. Wala naman silang ina-assume na rules for this, so this is not a role play. So, the answer for this class is letter C, simulation. Okay, let's have number 24. Which of the following activity is most appropriate if the teacher focuses on attitudinal change? Nabanggit ko na kanina, class. That is role play. So, it would be better if you read the different cone of experiences, under cone of experiences ni Edgar Dale. Just I guess sa edtech nyo, this will be discussed or this will be reviewed. So, better you listen more about that one kasi marami pang different learning experiences yung pwede nating i-implement. Okay, so let's have the third to the last na objective natin, employ appropriate classroom management techniques. So, we have here the classroom practice, number 25. The classroom practice is not recommended because it does not promote sound classroom management. This classroom practice is not recommended because it does not promote a sound classroom management. A. Enforcing firm and fair discipline in the classroom. B. Applying rules and regulation on a case-to-case basis. C. Developing a system of coming in and going out in the classroom. Or letter D. Establishing rules and regulation. So, piliin nyo yung hindi makakapag-promote ng sound classroom management. Asan kaya dito, class? Alright. So, isa-isahin natin, ha? Yung hinahanap natin does not promote sound classroom management. So, letter A. Enforcing firm and fair discipline. So, this is okay and this is correct. We really need to enforce firm and fair discipline. So, tama naman siya. Wala namang mali doon. Ikalawa, applying rules and regulation on case-to-case basis. Oh, eto, yung nagpamali sa letter B. Bakit case-to-case? Kasi, class, hindi siya acceptable. Hindi siya acceptable, class. It's because, case to case is just like, okay, student A, na late siya sa pagpasa, hindi mo tinanggap. Pero si student B, na late siyang magpasa, tinanggap mo pa. So, diba, applying rules and regulation on case to case basis is na-oppose siya letter A, that we need to be firm and fair. So, letter B is not or does not promote sound classroom management. So, sige, examine muna natin yung letter C. Developing system of coming in and going out. Okay, excuse me ma'am, lalabas lang po ako. Okay naman siya. Letter D, establishing rules and regulation. Ay, of course, okay yan. It's really nice to establish rules and regulation during the first day. So, class, asan rito yung hindi sound classroom management? That is letter B, applying rules and regulation on case-to-case basis. So, we have letter B. Alright, let's go to number 26. Which among the statements below does not characterize effective classroom management? A. It teaches students to depend on others for self-control and self-regulation. B. It directs misbehavior quickly once it occurs. C. It respects cultural norms and creeds of students. D. Strategies are uncomplicated that they can be enforced consistently. So, asan rito? Hahanapin naman natin. Ay, nagawas an answer. Okay, why letter A? Kasi yung hinahanap natin does not characterize effective classroom management. So, we have letter A. It teaches students to depend behavior. Depend. Remember, the goal of teaching is to make the learners independent enough. So, depending on others is or not a good characteristic of a classroom. Letter B, okay naman siya kapag magkamali para hindi tayo magkaroon ng ripple effect. We really need to correct the behavior of the student immediately. Yung letter C, okay naman siya. Respect cultural norms and creeds of students. Tama yan. Letter D, strategies are uncomplicated that they can be enforced consistently. It's okay. So, the answer is letter A. Okay, let's go to number 27. Which of the following situation depicts a well-managed and learning conducive class? So, well-managed and learning conducive class. So, letter A. Students pursue their task without inhibition in Mr. Raymond class. Letter B. The learners are controlled by the homeroom teacher, Miss Nonato. Letter C. There is blind obedience among Mrs. Kimbao's students. Letter D. The learners are eager to reach their objective, especially in Mrs. Montisa's music class. So, asan dito yung well-managed and learning conducive class? Okay, so the answer, class, in 10, 9, 8. The answer is letter D. Why letter D, class? It's because, hanapin natin yung letter A. Yung hinahanap natin, depict or nagpapakita ng well-managed class. So, letter A, without inhibition. So, kahit hindi interesado, kasi siguro stricto yung teacher or what, so, sumusunod ng wala, kahit anong paggawa without inhibition. So, that's letter A. Letter B, controlled. Remember, teacher should not act as controller but a facilitator. Then we have blind obedience. This is similar to letter A, without inhibition. So this letter A to C are not characteristics of well-managed and learning conducive class, because this is more on controlling the learners without their own perception. Okay, let's move to number 28. All of the following situation exemplify respect for individual differences, except one. Okay, asan rito yung hindi sa individual differences? So A, Mr. Arellano prepares module for slow learners in his math class. B, Miss Mauricio gives greater attention to gifted learners in her class. C, Teacher Albi conceptualizes and implements variety of learning methods. Or letter D, Teacher Maureen treats all learners alike while they are in the classroom. So what do you think is the answer, class? That is letter D. So, yung sinasabi kasi rito is individual differences. So, when we say individual differences, we need to consider variety. We need to, paano ba? Dyan ka na. We need to consider differences. We need to consider multiple intelligences and learning styles. So, sa letter A, prepares module for slow learners. Okay lang naman yon kasi we are now considering the slow learners or but still, hindi naman isinulat dyan that the teacher forgets the fast learners. So, talagang nagbigay lang siya para sa slow learners. Then, letter B, Miss Mauricio gives greater attention. Hindi naman sinabi na walang attention dun sa slow learner. There's still greater attention. But, it would be better if it would be equal or more dun sa slow learners, no? Letter C, conceptualizes and implement a variety of learning activities. Tamang-tama siya. Ano yung nagpamali? Ano yung nagpamali kay letter D? Eto. Treats all learners alike. Ibig sabihin, treats all learners alike. You treat all the learners similar. So, that's letter D. Alright, so we have here principles in classroom management. So these are some principles that we must bear in our mind. So we have consistent and proactive discipline. So we need to be firm and we need to Be proactive. Set the rules prior to the situation. Prior na mag-occur yung situation. Next, establish routines. Practice smooth transition from one part of the plan to another. Then we have to understand and imbibe witness. So witness, having eyes at the back. Then we have immediately respond to inappropriate behavior. To avoid the so-called ripple effect, we need to respond to inappropriate behavior. Then the last one, classroom structure arrangement should be conducive to learning. So here are some principles in classroom management. Alright, number 29 na tayo. So 29. This type of power is manifested by a teacher when he shows his students his vast knowledge of a subject matter. A. Philosophical power. B. Expert. C. Legitimate. D. Referent power. Again, manifested when a teacher shows vast knowledge. Ito yung clue word natin. Vast knowledge of the subject matter. Kung may tatanggalan tayo, that is philosophical power. Because philosophical power is not not included siya sa options. So we have expert, legitimate, and referent. So asan rito yung tungkol sa vast knowledge? That is expert power. So ano ba itong mga to? So we have here legitimate power, more on position or role. The teacher is in charge in the classroom. So you are the teacher. You are the authority in the classroom. That is legitimate. Reward naman, ability to give rewards. That is the reward power. So giving of candies, it could be tangible or intangible reinforcement. That is reward power. Coercive, giving punishment, but it is not a physical. It is not a physical na punishment, or it should be let's just the word ability to correct. So coercive, for example, pagsasabihan mo yung learner, then that is coercive power. Expert power, having superior knowledge. So sorry. So expert power, having the mastery of the topic. Then referent power, perceived as caring. So we have here the different powers. So please remember these powers kasi baka ma-encounter yung mga to. So number 30. Miss Christine Chong Tan Ha, a new teacher in St. Monica University, can assert her reward power to her students by, asan dito yung reward power? Natalakay na natin kanina. A. Show her students that she knows the lesson very well. B. Assuring her students that they can succeed in her class. C. Asserting her students on her authority. Letter D. Giving her students the grades that are tantamount to their efforts. Okay. Letter A, class, that is not yung hinahanap kasi natin is reward power. Yung letter A, that is not reward power. This is expert power. Letter B, rewarding siya, but we cannot say nga iga-assure ta dayon na mag-succeed. That is just more on, rewarding siya, but this is more on referent power. More on giving care. Letter C naman, asserting her student on her authority. This is legitimate power. So that's why, class, the answer is letter D, giving her student the grades that are tantamount to their efforts. So, sige, hanggang number 30 muna tayo. I'll be back soon. Thank you and God bless. Alright, so class, I'm back. So, again, those are the different powers that the teacher should have. So, We have here legitimate, reward, coercive, expert, and reference. So, tandaan nyo yan. So, let's move to number 31. This influence technique is best applied to the following example. Mr. Frederick Kwok Fan Choi looks in his students' eyes to tell them that he disapproves their mischievous behavior. Ano kaya to? A. Proximity control. B. Interest boosting. C. Direct appeal. Letter D. Signal interference. So, ano yung clue natin dito, class? Si Sir Frederick Kwok Fan Choi, tinignan niya sa mata yung student niya to tell them na na-disapprove niya or totally. So, what is this type of intervention? So, we have here proximity control, interest boosting, direct appeal, or signal interference. So, what do you think? Okay, 10 seconds. We have here, the answer is signal interference. So, ano-ano ba itong mga to? First, unahin natin yung option A. Proximity control is going near to the student na pasaway. So, for example, the student is sitting at the back. So, pupunta ka sa likod. Mag-stand ka lang doon. Wala kang gagawin. Tatabihan mo lang siya. That is proximity control. Interest boosting is encouraging the student, reinforcing them, motivating them. Then the last one is the direct appeal, telling them directly. So, sige. Alamin natin tong mga to. So, in the intervention, in the classroom, we have the so-called non-verbal and then verbal. So, sa non-verbal, we have the so-called planned ignoring. Una is planned ignoring. So, when the student is not behaving well, masyado na siyang makulit, papansin, and then yung sinasabi niya is not connected to the lesson, or even talagang paa sila talaga. So, one way that we can use, one non-verbal intervention that we can use is to ignore the student. Later on, mapuro ko na layton. Second, signal interference. Alam mo, sumuga na. These are different signal interference. This one. So, sign. Eyes. Kikitaan mo, that is signal interference. Then, we have proximity control. Just like, gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, proximity control, you are going to move toward or near the student. So, lalapitan mo or tatabihan mo. Then, the last is the touch control. Diri touch control, hanga apa dungon man student. Touch control, just tap the student na maringasa. Okay, just tap lang. Ayulot, pagduruha kay bang kama code of ethics. So, that's touch control. So, these are the non-verbal intervention. On the other hand, the verbal intervention naman is we have the adjacent reinforcement. So, it gives the student chance to control his or her own behavior. So, nag-warning ka lang. Sabi mo, okay, class, do not be noisy. Then, that student, warning ka lang, or, nagsalita ka lang, okay, do not be noisy. Then, wala nang nagingay. That is adjacent reinforcement. Next, number 2, call on the student or name drop. So, name drop like, okay, maingay si Lovely. Lovely, do not be noisy. That is name drop. Or, Lovely, maingay si Lovely kasi. Lovely, kindly answer this question. Okay, so, that is name drop. Papangalanan mo talaga. Then, we have the question awareness effect. So, question awareness effect is, sometimes the student who disrupt behavior is not aware of his own behavior. Okay, so pwede mong lapitan. Do you think they are disturbed with your noise? Lovely, do you think they are disturbed with your noise? As in, tatanungin mo siya kung sa tingin niya nakakadisturbo ba. Kasi baka hindi rin napapansin ni Lovely na disturbo na siya. So, we have question awareness effect. The number 4, positive phrasing. Okay. So, positive phrasing is, instead of calling adto nga student na maringasa, let us phrase, anong phrasing to? Sorry, positive praising. So, let us praise those student na appropriate yung behavior. Okay, let us look kasi sabihin natin si Ana, hindi siya maingay. Okay, let us try to emulate. Let us try to emulate Anna. She is well behaved. Okay, so that is positive phrasing. Then the last one is the Glasser triplets. So madalas tong gamitin. So Glasser triplets, kaya siya tinawag nga na Glasser triplets kasi there are 3 questions na binibigay mo, binabato mo sa learner. Questions, hayong binabato, hindi chalk. So, Glasser triplets, una, okay class, what are you doing? Teacher, nag-iingay kami. Is it against the rules? That's the second question. Yes, teacher. Then, what should you do? That is the Glasser triplets. Una, tinatanong mo, anong ginagawa nila? Tama ba yung ginagawa nila? Ano yung dapat nilang gawin? So that's Glasser's triplets. So those are the intervention in classroom management. So number 32 na tayo. Ay, salamat, 32 na. Conan asserts that one of the characteristics of an effective manager is wittiness, which principle serves as basis of wittiness. So asan dito? A. Have mouth ready to speak at any time. B. Have minds packed with intellect and alertness. C. Have hands that write fast. Or letter D. Have eyes at the back. Okay, wittiness. Na-mention ko na siya sa inyo kanina. That is letter D. Have eyes at the back. So, let us assure our students that we can see or we can observe. May nga nito na-observe ko nga. Bisan natalikod teacher, may dalaw sa mag-aringasa. Malalaman niya kung sino yung nag-ingay. That is having wittiness. So, having you can supervise your students even if you are doing something. So, that is wittiness. Okay, so alamin natin, we have here Jacob Conan's management model. So, itong mga terms na to, siguro ma-encounter nyo to. We have wittiness, overlapping, group focus, movement management, stimulus-bounded, trust, dangling, truncation, overdwelling, fragmentation, and flip-flop. So, ano tong mga to? Let's start with wittiness. So, wittiness is, oo, wala ako sa tabi mo, pero di ako tanga para di makita ang kalokohan mo. Ibig sabihin, supervision. Even sa inside the classroom, as the teacher, even though you are doing something, you are writing sa board, nakatalikod ka, alam mo kung anong ginagawa nila. Nasa-sense mo if who are the learners na maingay, who are the learners na hindi gumagawa ng notes nila. That is wittiness. Next, overlapping. This is positive kasi basahin natin yung hugot. Huwag kang mag-alala. Kaya kong maghanap buhay habang minamahal ka ng tapat. Okay? Kaya kong maghanap buhay habang minamahal ka ng tapat. Ibig sabihin, multitasking. That is a good characteristic of the teacher habang nagdi-discuss, nag-observe ng learner, then that is overlapping. So, the two others na hindi ko na ilagay dito is the group focus and the movement management. So, anyway, yung group focus naman class is just allowing them to work together, to collaborate. And then, movement management is being a facilitator. So, these are the positive teacher behavior. On the other hand, May sinite naman si Conan na negative teacher behavior as subcategories. So we have the first one, stimulus bounded. So pwede bang wag ka nang tumingin sa iba at focus ka lang sa ating dalawa. So having focus is the problem. So stimulus bounded, for example, we are discussing and then a little bit may dumaan, okay, na nawala agad yung discussion. So that is stimulus bounded. Then we have trust. Again, stimulus bounded, mabilis kang malito. Just like may uyab ka na, may umagi lang ang mahusay, na-distract ka na. So just like in the classroom, stimulus bounded is you are already discussing, then there is this na nag-ingay lang or student na pumalakpak, then na-distract ka na, nawala ka na sa discussion. That is stimulus bounded. Trust is, we have here a quote, hindi pa ako handang mahalin ka dahil alam kong malabo pa. When we say trust, ibig sabihin, not yet ready. So, trust, not yet ready. So, for example, pagpasok pa lang ni learner is nag-quiz na agad tayo without assessing kung natuto ba talaga si learner o hindi. So, that is trust. Or nag-discuss na tayo without assessing if alam niya ba yung topic previously. That is trust. Dangling naman. Dear mahal, nawala ka man, it is a comeback. So, it is a comeback, ibig sabihin, dangling, hanging activity. There is a hanging activity, tapos nagbigay ka ng another activity. Ay, sandali. May mali dito sa quote natin, class. Kasi dangling is, hanging yung activity, then nag-proceed ka sa another activity. Nag-proceed ka sa another activity. Naghahang pa yung activity na yon. And truncation, dear ex, wala tayong closure dahil kayo na. So, ibig sabihin, iniwan mo tong activity mo, proceed ka na to the next. So, dangling and truncation, medyo nakakalito siya. Always remember that when you say dangling, hanging yung activity na yun. Ito yung nakakalito, mali yung quote. I'm sorry for this one. Nagkapalit sila. So, we have the dangling. Ibig sabihin is, naghanging yung activity, then proceed ka to the next. Truncation naman, hindi pa tapos, iniwan mo na yung activity yun. So, that is truncation. Overdwelling, inuubos natin. Inubos mo na lahat ng oras mo para mahalin siya. Pinagmukha ka pa rin yung tanga. So, overdwelling is overtime in one topic. So, for example, your discussion is about living things and non-living things for the whole SEM. For the whole school year, living things lang yung na-discuss mo. That is overdwelling. Then we have fragmentation. Fragmentation is fragmentation. Alam kong sasaktan mo ako, bakit kailangan unti-untiin mo pang wasakin ang puso ko? So, the topic is about solid, liquid, and gas. So, as in, inisa-isa, for this month, solid lang yung i-discuss. Next month, liquid. Next month, gas. So, hindi tama yung pagkakachop or masyadong overtime. Masyadong hindi sakto yung chopping ng topic. Then we have flip-flop. Heto na naman ako, paulit-ulit na lang. So, after discussing this topic, you proceed to another topic and then going back to another topic. So, these are some of the negative teachers' behavior. And even though I am teaching already, I do admit that I still have some of this and we are still in the process of developing this one. So, negative teachers' behavior. We have the stimulus bounded, thrust, dangling or dangle, truncation, overdwelling, fragmentation, and flip-flop. Okay, let's go to number 33. Number 33. Ripple effect can also be seen in misdemeanor. The teacher should therefore A. Reinforce positive behavior. B. Immediately respond to the behavior. C. Be consistent in the classroom management. D. Count 1 to 10 before she gets angry. Again, ripple effect can also be seen in misdemeanor. The teacher should therefore A. Reinforce positive behavior. B. Immediately respond to the behavior. C. Be consistent in classroom management. Or letter D. Count 1 to 10 before she gets angry. What do you think is the answer for this class? That is letter B. Immediately respond to misbehavior. So, ripple effect kasi is nangyayari once hindi mo kinorek, hindi natin i-kinorek class, hindi natin na-correct yung isang student, then other students will follow or will imitate that particular student. So for example, one student is using cell phone in class, and then we did not correct that one. So the other student, okay, it is okay to use cell phone. So what man he sa way ni teacher. So okay lang ayan. Then nagkaada na yung ripple effect. Just like water. So nagbutang ka ba? So may da nga daw water, then nagbutang ka usa, may da usa, waray mo kapigiling nga nakabutang ka water, then nabantad na iba. So that's ripple effect. So in order to avoid that one, we need to immediately respond to misbehavior. Number 34, ang haba ng 34. On the first day of school, Teacher Evita oriented her class on procedure to be observed in passing papers, getting textbook from and returning on the same bookshelf, leaving the room for necessity and conducting group work. She arranged the chairs in such a way the students can interact and can move around without unnecessarily distracting those seated. She involved the class in formulating the rules to ensure punctuality, order, and cleanliness in the classroom. On what belief the teacher Evita practice is anchored. So A, classroom rules need to be imposed in order sake. B, the classroom environment affects learning. C, the teacher must lord her power over her students to be an effective classroom management. Then letter D, a reactive classroom management style is effective. The answer for this class is letter A, classroom rules need to be imposed in order's sake. So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung pinupunto ng 34, na situation sa 34, there is always a rule. Even just in submitting papers, so may rule. So, in order to make it good, there should be rules that should be imposed. So letter B, wala naman really about classroom environment na mas priority. Yung priority kasi rito is more on orienting on the class procedure, observe passing papers, and then so on. Letter C, load her power over the students. Hindi niya naman ibinigay sa student. That is not load, that is load. Load her power. Hindi niya naman ibinigay lahat ng gagawin or lahat ng pag-set ng rules sa student. So, just a collaborative way. So, hindi rin C. Letter D, of course, sabi ko nga, it should not be reactive, it should be proactive. So, eto, nasagot na natin sa 34 yung 35. So, tignan lang natin. Which adjectives appropriately describe Teacher Evita as a classroom management? A, proactive. B, modern. C, reactive. D, traditional. The answer, class, is letter A, proactive. Because nag-set muna siya ng rules and everything. Oriented yung classes. So, proactive siya. Hindi naman modern or traditional kasi we can have modern and traditional rules together. Yung dalawang pagpipilian lang natin rito is proactive or reactive. But based on the situation, balikan natin, inorient on the first day mismo. Inorient niya yung learners niya. That's why it is proactive. Okay. Was it sound classroom management practice for teacher Evita to have involved her student in the formulation of class rules? So was it a sound classroom management practice for teacher Evita to have involved the students in formulating the class rules? Tama ba ito, class? So is it yes or no? So tama ba? Then okay. Dahil tama, so meron na lang talo yung dalawang option, that is B and C. So tanggal na si letter A and letter D. So B and C, so yes, it makes the student feel a sense of ownership of the rules, or letter C, it lessens the teacher's work. So yun ba talaga? Lessens the teacher's work? Anak, balikan natin yung situation. Ano daw? Anay ha? Balikan tayo situation. So as you can see, she arranged without unnecessarily distracting. So in formulation of the rules to ensure punctuality, order, cleanliness in the classroom. Involved niya yung class. So para mas ma-embody nila yung rules, kaya pina-join yung class. So that is letter B. Hindi naman siguro tinatakbuhan ni teacher Evita yung responsibility niya as a teacher. So that's the end for classroom management, and I guess we need to just a little review about classroom management. So if I were you read gihapon aside from this video, it's better for us to read the last part of the book ni Corpus about principles of teaching, and try to answer gihapon different situational questions and different let reviewers about classroom management. Then analyze the option. Always remember the different classroom policies. So let's go to our second to the last objective. Employ effective art of questioning. Okay, number 37. Which of the following types of questions limit a student's ability to think creatively and critically? So asan kaya rito? A. Open-ended, B. Divergent, C. Probing, letter D. Convergent. So, asang type ng question? That is convergent. So, ano ba kasi yung difference nila? So, when we say open-ended and divergent, open-ended at saka divergent, they are just same. So, divergent questions, for example, how do you take good care of your body? That is divergent. So, pwedeng magbigay ng opinion yung learner, and hindi siya more on the content itself. Probing question naman, class, this is a technique in asking question wherein for example, nagtanong ka like, what is the difference between living and non-living things? Sinabi, sumagot yung student. Then sabi mo naman, okay, cite an example of living things. Cite an example of non-living things. That is probing question. Giving a follow-up question. Then the last one is convergent. This is closed-ended. So, this is more on objective type of question kung saan you are just asking based on the book or based on the content. So, yung hinahanap kasi natin is limit students' ability. So, limiting students' ability is by giving only convergent question. But I'm not saying, class, na kanan open-ended itigahatag. It should be a mix of convergent and divergent question. Alright, number 38. Which type of questioning does Mr. Adona use when he does follow-up questioning in order to elicit more from his students to make them think critically. Okay, we have here already the clue word, follow-up questioning. So, nabanggit ko na kanina to. And hindi na natin ma-deny that the answer is probing. So, probing is giving follow-up question. Leading is leading and prompting. Etong dalawang to, they are same. So, leading and prompting, they are similar because you are giving clue. On the other hand, wait time naman, you are giving 3 to 5 seconds before you ask for the answer. For example, tinawag mo si Lovely. Okay, Lovely, what is photosynthesis? Sige, bilang ka muna ng 3 to 5 seconds bago sumagot si Lovely para at least makapag-prepare siya. Ay, by the way, in asking question, state first the question. So, for example, what is photosynthesis? Tapos tinawag mo, Lovely, what is photosynthesis? So, bilang ka ng 3 to 5 seconds. That is wait time. So, for the answer sa number 38, that is probing question. Alright, number 39. Dr. Agnes Romero, a history professor, has this habit of calling her students' name before asking them a question during recitation. So, habit of calling students habit of calling your students' name. So, inuuna mo na yung name before asking questions. So, is it right or wrong? Okay, ganito. Pili tayo. Right or wrong ba yun? Okay, well, it is not that right. It is incorrect. So, tanggalin natin si A and letter C. So, mayroon na lang tayong letter B and letter D. So, letter B, wrong, because the moment the teacher calls a student, the rest of the class will not listen anymore to the question since it is not for them. Letter D, wrong, because the question may not suited to the particular student. Of course, in asking question kasi, we are making sure that it is good for the learner. So, okay, yung letter C, hindi rin siya natin masasabi na tama siya. It's because we are creating question, of course, suitable to the level of the student. Yung letter B, this is the best answer, class. Kasi if we keep on calling the student's name first, it may develop them in kahadlok, or it may also develop in kahayahayhan iba nga students because okay, may gintawag ni ma'am, di ako natawag, di ako natsambahan, then dili ka na mag-iisip, you are not going to think of the answer. So it would be better, as always, ask the question, then call the student. Number 40. To connect the lesson on water conservation to the life of the students, which question is the most appropriate? So, asan dito? Based on your observation, in what ways do people contribute to water wastage? How can you help conserve water? Letter C, among families who contribute to most the water, what may be the reason why family B is not as big as family C? It consumes much more water. Okay, eto. We are now building a connection. How are you going to ask a question na dapat mako-connect ang lesson to the personal life of the student? So, the choices, they are all good. Medyo mako-confuse talaga tayo sa choices. So, remove muna tayo. So, it should be personal or based on experience na question. Yung letter D and letter C, this is not based on experiences. These are mostly based on the text that has been read. So, hindi siya particular with your own personal experience to connect the lesson to real life. So, we need to remove C and D. So, we have only A or B. So, A, based on your observation, in what ways do people contribute on water wastage? So, okay, based on observation, pero bakit hindi na lang ako yung tanungan? Para at least makonect ko in my experience. And, having that in mind, yes, ikaw yung tatanungin para mas makonect mo, that is letter B. O diba? Hindi ibig sabihin na kung ano yung mahabang option, yun yung sagot. So, eto, letter B, nagpapatunay siya, how can you help conserve water? That is the best answer among the choices. Okay, just want to share this one about the art of questioning. So, we have closed or open, convergent or divergent, lower level or higher level. So, when we say closed, convergent, and lower level, these are more on objective question. Ito ay more on remembering level. On the other hand, open or divergent, these are more on collecting. Ito namang questions that can help collect ang perception from the students. Then, guidelines in asking question. We have the wait time, giving 3 to 5 seconds for the students to think about the question. Prompting naman, giving clues. For example, hindi nakasagot si Lovely about living and non-living things. Pinakita mo nga, okay, Lovely, you are a living thing. This table is a non-living thing. Then that is prompting. Then probing, giving follow-up question, and then commenting, giving feedback. So these are guidelines in asking question. Alright, last objective na tayo, class. Identify the elements of a lesson plan or a learning or an instructional plan. Okay, number 41. Which of the following parts of a lesson plan are properly arranged? So, I guess hindi na bago sa inyo to. We have here, yes, that is A, objective, subject matter, procedure, evaluation, and assignment. I would like to advise you gihapon to familiarize yourself or to study the Depth and Order number 42 series of 2016. These are the policy guidelines in lesson planning, and right now, kasi bangin ano yan bangin iglakip it choosing of MELC, most essential learning competency, kasi our teachers based on my informal interview with my former classmates, they said that they are not discussing or they are not choosing all the objective learners curriculum guide. They are just choosing at least the most important. So that is MELC. So we have here the objective, subject matter, procedure, evaluation, assignment. This is in conventional. So you better read about the Depth and Order number 42 series of 2016. Number 42. Teacher review past lessons before getting to the new lesson in order for them to A. Check if the parents guide their children in accomplishing their homework. B. Make sure that the students understand the prerequisite skills of the lesson. C. Prepare the students for mastery level. Or letter D. Make learning interesting and enjoyable for students. So, having or conducting a review, that is to simply know if the students understand the lesson. Alright. Okay, so let us have the next one. Last item, 43. For students, for lesson clarity and effective retention, which should teacher observe according to Brunner's theory? So Brunner's theory, that is more on inactive, iconic, and then symbolic. So Brunner's theory, we always need to begin with the concrete level. So that is letter A. So this is A. And just here are the references that I used, and I also get questions from different licensure exam and different papers or different examinations. So if you want to learn something and if you have some questions, or feel free to ask questions. So that could be all, class, about teaching, principles of teaching. So thank you and God bless you.